People always say that you have to have money to make money, and that there's an extraordinary level of sacrifice on the road to success. So how is it that investors like us who didn't start out with much money and who don't rely on banks and credit, how is it that we can increase our income and build our wealth in a way that doesn't require us replacing one full-time job with another while still enjoying the things in life that matter most to us? That has always been the big question, and this podcast reveals the answers. I am Carrie Like, and this is the Investor Warrior. Hey, you guys, and welcome to the show today. Before I bring on our guest, I just wanted to remind you all that we are going to be putting together a partner program. I've had a few people reach out to me asking me if someone has a lead or they have a deal and they don't know what to do with it, do we partner with people? And yes, we do. So we're going to be putting together our partner program in the next couple of weeks. And we're going to be providing a link for you so that if you have a lead on a seller who wants to sell their home, or you have a deal that's currently under contract and you're just kind of stuck on what to do with that lead or that deal, you can go to the landing page that we're going to provide and you can fill out all the information. But in the meantime, if you have something, don't worry. You can go to your email and you can email me. It's carrie@theinvestorwarrior.com. Email me the information and we can go from there, okay? Because I know you guys get a lot of information from this podcast and from the YouTube channel, but I know sometimes you need a little bit more, right? Because you've got something active and you're ready to take action on it. So we want to make sure that we're helping you with those, okay? Okay, so today I'm gonna be bringing on Steve WIble. And I'm excited for today's topic because we're going to be talking a lot about building up credit, not only personal credit, but how to get business credit, which is important in our industry. And I think I'm going to learn a few things here too. So I'm going to go ahead and bring Steve on. Hey, Steve, welcome to the show.
Hey, Carrie, thanks for having me on today.
All right, so let's just get into it. Introduce yourself to the listeners and let us know what you do first.
Okay, my name's Steve WIble, not Wibble.
You know what? It's funny because I always, before we come onto these episodes, I always make sure that I have the correct pronunciation on the last name. But every time you and I get on, we end up talking and I forgot to ask you.
and I almost always say before I go live is, hey, it's WIble like Bible. And I forgot because like you said, we just,
so now you guys know it's Steve WIble like Bible. This is a great tool for remembering people's names. I do this all the time because it's so important to remember people's names and correct pronunciation. I always associate someone's name to something so that I can always remember it. So Steve WIble, like the
There
Bible.
you go. Anyhow, so I have been in business my whole life until now, as a matter of fact. I owned a print manufacturing company, sold that, got into real estate heavily, owned over 300 properties, flipped an additional 300 properties, and then owned 187 unit apartment complex and a 33 unit apartment complex. So I've dabbled a little bit in real estate. And I was able to scale that in a couple of years, just a couple. And people always ask me, how did you do that? And I always answer the same way. Well, I did the way I built my printing company. I made sure I got other people to give me credit without them tying it to me personally. And people didn't understand what I was talking about. Well, in the manufacturing world, business credit is normal, right? So I'll use printing as an example. I was selling, let's say, brochures to Blue Cross Blue Shield. It was one of my clients. I had to get credit from my paper suppliers, my ink suppliers, my box companies, whoever I was buying my supplies from, in order for me to offer terms to my clients, right? So that is what business credit is. It's businesses giving other businesses credit. Now that expands a little bit because you can get things like Visas, MasterCards, vehicle financing if you want. There are all types of things you can get as a business owner on credit that's tied to your business, not to you personally. And 99% of the business owners have no idea what I'm talking about. It's not something that's taught. If you go to business school, they don't teach this. You learn it either through talking to a company like ours, or just because you happen to be in the manufacturing space. And that's the only way to survive on that. And what I'd like to do today is teach other real estate investors how I did it. Right? And talk about what we do as a company. Now, what happened is I stayed in real estate. As you know, we discussed this. I moved to Florida, and man, I had never heard of hurricanes in the box before.
We were just discussing this because there is a hurricane headed towards us right now. And I have a closing today that just got pushed to Tuesday. And this is the world of real estate in Florida. You're dealing with these named storms all of a sudden. And I'm like, man, I don't know if we're gonna close on Tuesday because you can't get insurance when there's a named storm.
And exactly. And I went, of course, I didn't know anything about that. I've been a licensed real estate agent for a long time as well. And I moved to Florida and I was doing really well. And then all of a sudden I went 5 months without a closing because I couldn't get anybody insurance. So anyway,
it's a problem.
So I got evacuated, I think a few years ago. God, I can't remember the name of the storm, but I ended up going to my Marine Corps buddy's house in the central part of Florida. And I'm sitting in his spare bedroom, the storm's hitting us heavy, and I'm on Craigslist of all places, and I'm looking at jobs because I'm like, I'm sick of real estate, I'm over it, I'm done, and I've never had a job. So you got a picture of my resume, basically said president. So anyhow, I saw this company and I saw what they were selling, and I went, this is brilliant. Where have they been? Interviewed with them, obviously ended up taking a position, and I love it, teaching people how to build business credit. This is something that is desperately needed in our world and just isn't shared. And real estate investors are probably one of the top 3 that I talk to. Prior to this pandemic, I was traveling the country and speaking about this, and I love talking to real estate investors. First of all, I relate. Right?
Yeah.
And second of all, in our business, credit is super important. Personal credit is super important. Because we all get opportunities, right? We all get opportunities. It's those of us that are prepared for them that succeed.
Yeah.
Right. So one of my apartment complexes I bought was a 32-unit apartment complex. I had about an hour to make a decision, 1 hour to make a decision, and I couldn't get in the building. I could only drive around it. Right. But my personal credit was so strong, I was able to contact my bank, and they approved me within minutes. Obviously subject to, but they approved me because I didn't use my personal credit for anything unless it made me money. I used business credit for everything else. My vehicles were in the company name, my Visas, my MasterCards, my Home Depot credit, my Lowe's credit. Everything I used to run my business was tied to the business. So that when I had an opportunity to buy like that particular building, which I flipped in 6 months for 1.1 million.
Yeah.
Now, my point is that you've got to be prepared for that. And one of the ways you can do that is to start using credit that's tied to your business. Because look, if we're all real estate investors, I hope everybody that's listening actually has an LLC or better, right? If they're flipping properties just for protection purposes. What most people don't know is you can actually build a business credit profile, a credit profile just tied to that business. So you can begin applying in the beginning, at least for what we call net 30 accounts. For those who aren't familiar with net 30, that simply means that you're going to get credit from, I'm going to use Home Depot as an example. From Home Depot, you're going to buy their products, and then they're going to send you a bill. You have 30 days to pay it. That's beginning business credit. But you can't even get there until you set your business up the right way. So in the commercial world, as opposed to in the personal credit world. The personal credit world, when you get turned down for a credit card or a loan or whatever, they have to disclose why. And usually it's your credit score is terrible or too many inquiries or whatever it is. In the business credit world, here's how they turn you down. We would like your social security number. In other words, they're saying, we're not giving your business credit. We need you to personally guarantee it, right? And people don't think, it's ingrained to them to, okay, here's my social.
Right.
Well, that's another inquiry that drops your personal credit score if you max out that particular credit card. And look, anybody who's had Home Depot credit, you're going to max it out if you're flipping houses. Right? You're absolutely going to max it out. Instead, the reason they turned you down is because they looked at your business, saw it didn't look fundable to them, and they asked for your social. So I'm going to teach you some fundability factors.
Okay.
Right.
Credit is a interesting thing, because it can take a long time to build up credit, and it only takes one circumstance to tear it back down.
You mean like 2008?
Well, let me give you an example. I'm going to give you a personal example of something that just happened to me. that was totally out of my control. It wasn't my fault. And it happened during a very inconvenient time. We went to go refi a home, and I have great credit. And all of a sudden, it looked like I had something on my credit report that didn't look right. So I went in there, and there was some 30-day late payment from the mortgage company. And I'm like, what the hell is this? I've never had a 30-day late payment. And this is Mr. Cooper, by the way, who I'm not a big fan of Mr. Cooper. But so I went in there, and I'm like, look at my history. There's no late payments. I have to call the mortgage company. They look at it. They're like, this is strange. You're right. There is no 30-day late payment, but they had already reported it to the credit bureau. And this was during a time where I'm trying to refi something, and I'm trying to get a new mortgage. And now it looks like I have this 30-day late payment. Plus it dropped my score 60, 70, 80 points. I don't know what it was. And so I had to contact the mortgage company. They had to basically put in a dispute. It took 30, 40 days for me to get an answer, for them to say, oh, sorry, this was a mistake we made, and we've resolved it with the credit bureaus, and it will now be resolved in 5 days. But it took time, and it kind of, it put things on hold for a minute. And I had to proactively work towards getting this reversed. But it's like one thing can happen, and it can affect everything that you're doing over here. And so you've got to be on it. I'm constantly looking at my credit report and the inquiries and the hits to it, because it's always shifting. It's not static. Right. And it can change up and down, left and right, from day to day.
Absolutely. And you know what? I hope you were lucky enough that it didn't affect your rate. In other words, that delay.
It didn't.
Okay, good.
We got it resolved quickly, but it took time and energy out of my schedule to do it. And
sure.
in the end, it was fine, but it was just like one of those inconveniences that I really didn't want to have to tackle.
Absolutely. And it's funny. It's a habit. I hear in you, me. I still monitor my personal credit like a lunatic. I check it literally every single day. And I'm not investing in real estate right now. I will be. It's coming. I'm just kind of waiting for that. Well, this market is, you're in Florida. You're in Florida, right? I'm
in Florida, and the market is crazy, but we're still doing deals.
Yeah, I'm looking. I'm just not quite. I have money sitting aside waiting. Like, I'm looking for a particular thing. But I'm watching I feel like I've invested it just in my own house. It's gone up 150 grand in a year. What is going on? Yeah. So anyway, but what's cool is monitoring your personal credit is great. But what I don't like to see is, I don't like to see real estate investors who let's say they get into a job, and let's say they borrow from hard money, and there's just not enough money to cover the construction. They run into some issue, and it happens for everyone.
Right.
And they've got to reach into either their wallet, or they've got to use their credit cards. And usually I hear people using their credit cards, right? So they'll go buy supplies, and they'll max out a $20,000 credit card because they've got to fix this problem. Well, now their score drops, right? If it happens to report while it's maxed out, your score is down. Now the next day, an unbelievable opportunity shows up. Guess who can't buy it? Right? So instead, what I'd rather see them do is get these credit cards, even their vehicles, in the company name. Without a personal guarantee. It's amazing. I have $150,000 in business credit cards. I can max them out. It doesn't affect my personal credit score at all. At all. Zero. I can literally max them out. But you need to know that first of all, that you even have a business credit profile. Most people don't even know where to look for that. I'm going to give you an example of one place they can go. They can go to dnb.com. That's davidnancyboy.com. That's Dun & Bradstreet. You should have a DUNS number. If you've been in business over a year, you probably have one. Search your company name, search the state you're in, and if your name comes up, if it populates, then there's a little link where you can say, email me my DUNS number. So you have a business credit profile. Here's where it's problematic. If you have nothing reporting on your business credit profile, they actually report a negative. So it's unlike personal credit, where you have no beacon. Like if you have nothing reported, there's just no score. On business credit, they actually put that you have the potential to be bankrupt in the next 12 months. You've done nothing wrong. And it says potential to be bankrupt. In other words, be careful. Don't lend them money is basically what it says.
And explain to me why they do that.
Because in
What's
their
the
minds, if you're really in business, you're going to be doing business with other businesses, and they're going to be reporting. So therefore, you are legitimately in business, right?
Mm-hmm.
This will be a great example. So if a truck driver, cross-country truck driver, gets a fuel card, right? And it reports on their business credit report, and the limit's, let's say, 10,000, which is typical. And I pulled their business credit report 3 months after they get that card, and I see the highest balance they've ever had is $100.
Mm-hmm.
Do you feel like they're in business? I feel like that truck's been sitting.
Got it.
Right? They're not buying fuel.
Right.
So they're not operating. So I would be very leery of lending that company money because I'm like, wait a minute, your number one expense is fuel and you're not spending any, which means, right?
Right.
So it's important for people to understand that they have a business credit profile, whether they like it or not. And it's reporting negatives right now, or it's reporting nothing, which is a negative. But here's the good news. It only takes a couple of trade lines, what we call payment experiences, for that to change completely around. And from it to go to you're a high risk to you're a low risk. And I say a couple of trade lines, I mean just a couple of people giving you credit, even small limits, $500, will change how that looks.
Okay.
So I know the question is, well, how do I do that? How do I get a couple of trade lines reporting? Well, you can do it one of two ways. You can go out and get a business credit card, like from Chase or Wells Fargo or something like that, and personally guarantee it, and they'll report on the business credit reports as well as your personal credit. So
you'll personally guarantee it, but it will be reporting to both the business and the personal.
So that's a quick way to do it. But the problem with that is if you use that credit and it maxes out, it's going to drop your personal credit score.
Mm-hmm.
Or you can set your business up to look credible to lenders and start getting net 30 accounts right away. I mean, almost immediately, including gas cards, that begin reporting organically on their own. Okay. But you'll never get there if your business doesn't look right. I'm going to give some examples of that. And this is especially where real estate investors fail, especially.
And let me ask you a question before we get into that. How established does a business need to be before they can start establishing business credit?
1 day.
Okay.
1 day. If I started a new LLC today, 8 months, I'm going to have $150,000 in credit or more.
Okay.
You just have to know the formula. You have to know the process and which order to do it in. And the problem is it's constantly changing. I wrote a book about business credit a couple of years ago. I think I released it right over Thanksgiving weekend, and sold lots of copies, blah, blah, blah. But in January, I felt guilty and wanted to refund money because it had changed so much that it was, we have a whole team of researchers. Their only job is to test these companies to make sure they're really approving people for credit, and it changes every Monday. So writing a book about it sounds great. It's a great business card I can wave around, but it's worthless.
Because it's constantly changing.
Correct. Well, I don't know if you're old enough to remember, but I am. Radio Shack.
I remember Radio Shack because I used to go there with my dad all the time when I was little.
You did? Okay, awesome. They actually were one of the first ones to give business credit to startup businesses. They would actually give terms to small businesses. If they needed to buy things, they would give them 30 days to pay it.
Okay.
So if you wrote a book about business credit, then you would put Radio Shack in there. Well,
right.
Good luck finding one now.
Right.
So anyway, it changes constantly. And in addition to that, they have these gates, these fraud detection that they have to make sure they're not getting ripped off. And it'll make sense. They're not getting a personal guarantee. They're giving your company credit. If you don't pay it, they have no one to go after. Mm-hmm. So they've got to make sure you're legitimately in business and you're somebody that they want to do business with. And they set up these gates with some really simple features, but people fail them nowadays because we're in the world of instant gratification right now, right? We are all in instant gratification. So if I said to, maybe not you, but somebody, hey, you're going to open a business tomorrow, what type of email are you going to get? They're going to get, I have a business at gmail.com, guaranteed, or Yahoo, or God forbid, AOL. AOL is going to sue me for saying that.
There are still people out there that use AOL.
I know. I'm going to get sued one of these times. I say this all the time. But here's the problem with that. Matter of fact, let me go a little bit further. So they're going to look at your email address. What they'd rather see is info@myurl.com. Okay, info@ theinvestorwarrior.com. Whatever it is, it has to be professional, right? They're going to want to make sure you have a website. They're going to scan that. Artificial intelligence will actually look for it and scan it. They're looking for information on you. You want to be the one to give it to them. You don't want somebody else giving it to them, right? So you need to have a professional website. If you buy houses, even if it's a one page, it doesn't matter. Just have something professional. And if you love Gmail, which I do, you can, once you own that URL, you can get something called G Suite. G-SUITE, and you can get info at your URL, but it'll be a Gmail account. So if you have Gmail on your phone, you could toggle between your two accounts. Right. So that's one. That's one real simple one, but I'll bet you 50% of the people that contact you have a Gmail or Yahoo account.
Yep.
And that's an automatic red flag. It's not going to get you denied, but it's going to make them look harder at your application.
Okay.
So then the next thing they're going to look at is your address, your business address. Now, there are only 3 passing grades in business credit world: commercial address, an actual building, commercial building, your home, and a virtual address. When I say a virtual address, I don't mean iPostal, I don't mean a UPS store. Matter of fact, if you want to know if it's a virtual address or not, if you're unsure, Google Earth it, go down the street level and look at it. If it looks like a retail store, it's a P.O. box. And a P.O. box is an automatic denial. Automatic. There's no
also USP a UPS box is also
UPS box, Staples, anything along those lines is going to be an automatic denial, right? Think about it this way, and we're going to go into the phone next because the phone's just as important. If you have a business phone number and it's one of these, that's a problem. All right, it's going to make sense. So, hey, Carrie, I'd like to borrow $10,000 from your company. Okay. And you say, sure, Steve, fill out the application. I filled the application. And my email is idon'tpayMyBills@gmail.com. My address is P.O. Box 123 Nowheresville. And my phone number is a throwaway cell I just bought at Walmart. How comfortable are you going to be giving me money? Giving me any credit? You wouldn't even let me, rent your house for a day. Right? That's exactly how they see it. So don't use a cell phone as your business number. It's okay. You don't have to go buy a business phone, but get yourself a voice over IP. Now, I know a lot of real estate investors use Google Voice. I did too. I had a Google Voice.
Call Hire or Call Rail.
Right. So the problem with Google Voice is that's their number. You're not paying for it. It's free. So that's the rule. If you're not paying for it, it doesn't work.
So with Call Hire and Call Rail, you do pay for it.
Right. Or you can go to Ring Central is another one.
Yeah.
Get yourself an 800 number and a local number. It'll forward right to your cell. It's no big deal. What's great about that is as your business grows, if you decide to get a commercial building and put your office there, you still have the same phone number.
Okay.
Right. And you've got to list that number with the National 411 directory.
Okay.
And I know some people are going, what? What's that? Well, because I'm so old, I remember this. Picking up the phone, dial 411.
Yeah. I used to work at a call center where we would make calls and forward. Yeah.
Yeah. You ask for Joe's Pizza on Main Street and they'd connect you and give you the number, right? Well, that database still exists today and lenders check it immediately to see if you're really in business. You can't list a cell phone. You have to have a real business phone number. So you've got to get that taken care of. The next couple of items are pretty easy. I assume you have a business checking account. Please don't be a real estate investor and run everything through your personal account. You are setting yourself up for an audit. Have a business checking account. Get your DUNS number. Go to dnb.com. If you don't have your DUNS number, get it. It's free. They have to give it to you by law. However, you used to work in a call center, so you're going to get this. They will delay that DUNS number for about 30 days. That gives the call center time to call you and sell you something.
Got it. Okay.
Now ask me if you need what they're selling.
Well, almost always no.
No, exactly. You don't. Here's the deal. They're going to step you down. They're going to start with their business credit building program where they're going to ask you for anybody you're doing business with, like maybe a contractor, right? And then they're going to manually place those trade lines in your credit report. Sounds good. Here's the problem. What they really want is to build a database that they can call and sell them something, right? So you're giving them that information. Then at the end of the year, when it comes time to renew that program, if you don't pay them that $2,000 again, those trade lines are dead. Like closing a credit card account, they're gone.
Okay.
So it's not organic, is my point. Right? Then if they can't sell you that program, then they're going to sell you the verification program, where they're going to verify who you are. Hi, Carrie. This is Dun & Bradstreet. I'd like to verify, is your company called The Fearless Investor?
Yes, it is.
Outstanding. I'd also like to verify, is this your phone number?
Yes, it is.
Yes. Right.
Yep.
And this is your website?
Yes.
Great. That'll be $450, please.
For what?
Exactly. You get my point. That information is going to be there anyway. So you don't really need anything. Again, they're probably going to sue me. They're probably going to sue me too. Don't buy anything from them. You don't need it. When you build a business credit profile, you want it to be organic, because once you hit around 15 trade lines reporting, something really funny happens. And I know you know what this is, Carrie, because you already said you have good personal credit. I'm going to guess when you go out to your mailbox every day, there's a credit card offer, a personal loan offer. There's something in the mailbox, somebody trying to give you money. They're just throwing it at you, right?
Yeah.
Well, you don't think they just randomly sent that to you, right?
Right. No, they have a database of people who have great credit lines and want more. Yeah.
You got it. It's exactly right. Well, the same exact thing happens in business credit. So once you hit a certain number of trade lines reporting, you have a certain Paydex score and a certain Experian score, instead of you looking for money, it starts looking for you. And all of a sudden, you're getting these offers. You're going, "Whoa! I never even heard of this bank." Well, their job is to give you credit. They're in business to give you credit. They just have to find qualified customers. Well, how do you do that? How do you do that? You contact Experian and Dun & Bradstreet, and you buy that data.
Yeah.
So that's what's cool about building business credit too. It just takes time to get there. Typically, from start to finish, about 8 to 12 months, depending on how long you've been in business. But now, once you have these factors set up, you have your business credit, your business bank account, you have your address set up, everything's correct. Go ahead and start applying for credit. My friend, I'll give everybody a free one right now. Ever hear of Uline? You probably have a catalog in your house.
Yeah. Yes, I've heard of that before.
Yeah. They're a shipping company. They sell everything from tape to. It doesn't really matter. I bought a trash can for one of my investments from them. The big street trash cans. As long as you spend over $50, they'll give you terms. They're going to ship you the product. They're going to send you the bill. Pay the bill within the terms, 30 days typically, and they're going to report organically. You don't have to pay them to do that. It's going to happen. That's your first trade line. Usually when people try it, they're amazed at it. Wow, they gave me credit. They don't know anything about me. They will, as long as your fundability factors are good. Then from there, you start moving up into retail, what we call retail credit, which is places like Home Depot and Lowe's, and places like the office supply places, printers, if you wanted to mail postcards. I don't know if anybody's still doing that, or flyers. And then you're going to move into higher limit revolving. And then you're going to move into the Visas and the MasterCards and the vehicles. I have to tell you, I had 5 pickup trucks in the company name. None of them tied to me. My employees were all driving company cars with company gas cards. Everybody had a Home Depot card. If a water heater broke down in one of my rentals, they didn't have to call me. They knew where to go. They knew what to do. Obviously keep receipts, but it just made my life easier.
Let's go back to the fundamentals here and why it's better to get a business line that you don't have to personally guarantee. Like, let's talk about just personal guarantees first and what that really means.
Okay. Well, I'll tell you, now I'm going to expose my soft side.
Okay.
The underbelly's coming. So I had all these properties. I was doing really well. I had multiple 7 figures in the bank, and I was greedy. I decided I wanted to be, forget your politics. I wanted to be Trump, because I'm from the Northeast and I knew exactly who he was. He owned the casinos back then.
You have better hair, though, I think.
Yeah. Not anymore. But anyhow, so I kept leveraging. My wife, being the brilliant one in the family, said, stop. And I said, no. So anyhow, then 2008 hit. And
you were taking out mortgages. You were leveraging with mortgages.
Oh yeah. I anything I could leverage, I leveraged. Okay. And 2008 hit, and obviously I lost tens of millions of dollars in value, and loans started getting called in. Blah blah. Yeah, I don't have to. Bottom line is I went down. I remember I had one 7-story building under construction, and I think I paid $800,000 for it, and it was worth like $250 in like 6 months.
Yeah.
It's just, and I thought it was worth $1.8
And
million.
you were still renovating it. You
Yeah,
had
I'm
to
still
finish.
renovating.
Yeah.
Correct. So everything goes down. Other than my personal mortgage, other than my personal house,
Mm-hmm.
I had nothing negative on my credit report.
Mm-hmm.
I lost everything. I mean, I literally lost everything.
Right.
But all my credit was tied to the business. So it's not that you want to plan for failure, but you don't want to fail to plan,
Mm-hmm.
right? You want to make sure that if something does happen, and I'm just talking about people, protect your family. If I'd have had all that debt in my name, I personally would have had to file bankruptcy. There's no way I could have handled it, right? The mortgage I
Mm-hmm.
dealt with, and they could have gone after my wife. Like I didn't want that.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a classic example. 2008, 2010 is a classic example of why business credit is so important.
Mm-hmm.
Look, you see these big companies when they go out of business. Do you think the CEO is walking away with debt?
Right.
No. The company shuts down. The company goes bankrupt. The CEO walks away clean. Matter of fact, here's a classic example. Back in 1947, about 40 years before you were born, that there was a guy coming home from World
I
War
look
II.
really young for my age.
So about 3 weeks before I was born, this gentleman comes home from World War II, goes to work for JCPenney. He's getting paid $75 a month. And he decides he thinks he's a better negotiator than his boss. We all think we're smarter than our bosses, right? And,
well, I am my boss, so
well,
I do.
there you go. So he decides to open his own retail business, and he goes and he negotiates with vendors, suppliers, and he gets terms first. He negotiates business credit, and then he gets discounted terms on top of that. That was really important to him. And he started this retail store. He became a master at it. You know this company is Walmart.
Mm-hmm.
Their entire business plan was built on business credit. Matter of
Mm-hmm.
fact, they've reversed it. I love business credit because you get big companies to give credit to small companies.
Right.
Walmart reversed it. Now it's a big company getting credit from small companies.
Mm-hmm.
So as much money as they have, they still demand terms from their vendors. I know I used to print for them. They wanted 90 days to pay me. 90 days. Now I had to pay my suppliers in 10 to 30.
Right.
So that's why I didn't put a lot of stock in their business. I did probably $100,000 a year with them, not a ton. For my company size, that was a little bit. So if they're doing it, and they're doing it right, matter of fact, Amazon's entire business plan is business credit. They don't pay for anything.
Mm-hmm.
Why are you paying for everything? When I say you, why are small business owners paying for everything? If I opened a restaurant, I wouldn't pay anything for anything. So I'd make sure my suppliers gave me credit. Matter of fact, US Foods, who is one of the largest food suppliers in the country, they give business credit to restaurants.
Mm-hmm.
Right? That's why it's so important. And how many restaurants go out of business? Right?
Right.
I mean, this year was horrible.
Yep.
You need to set yourself up to protect your family. You need to make sure as much as your day-to-day operational credit, I'll call it, needs to be tied to the business.
Yeah.
Plus, in addition to
there's a flip side to that too, because it's great when you can get credit, but then you've got to be disciplined about it.
Oh, 100%. 100%. I'm not advocating run your credit up and then, oh, well, that's not what I mean. I'm talking about real business owners who are trying to grow. I just wanted to show you the soft underbelly side of what can happen when things go negative.
Using credit smartly.
Correct. I did. I over leveraged like a lunatic. I wouldn't do that again. That's why I'm really careful now.
Right.
But, but if you are getting in your car and you're driving around looking at properties, if you're investing locally, not nationally, don't get in a car that's in your name. Get in a car that's in the company name. First of all, it makes it easy when you do your taxes. It really does. And one thing we didn't talk about, credit limits for a business are 10 to 100 times higher than they are for personal. 10 to 100 times higher. And your profile gets built very quickly, and they recommend you for a credit limit amount on your business credit report. I've seen $2 million being recommended. I know I was being recommended for over $1 million at one point. So they're actually, it's a little different than what you're used to, but the 10 to 100 times higher is what's more important. I had over six-figure credit with Home Depot. How many of your listeners have six-figure credit with Home Depot? I bet none, or very few. Now, the key is I was spending a ton of money. I mean, I always bought the supplies. I never let my suppliers, my contractors buy the supplies. I didn't trust them. to be honest with you. I didn't want them rehabbing their houses on my money. You can get that type of credit. You can easily get that type of credit. You just have to understand how to do it. And you're right. Don't over leverage. Don't max out your Home Depot credit card just to max out and take the cash and put it in your pocket. I had a very specific plan. I always used hard money. Always used hard money to buy flips. When I was buying flips, I would use hard money. And we all know how that works. They give you enough to buy the property with some skin in the game. At my point, mine was giving me all of it because I'd done so many. They knew I knew what I was doing. And then they would escrow the construction. Right? Let's say it's $30,000. They give you $10,000 draws or $5,000, however you structured the deal. Well, I didn't want to put my money out. I didn't want to front that money. I let Home Depot front it. Let Lowe's front it. Let my contractors take a credit card payment. Let them front it. Then when I took the draws, first of all, I was able to negotiate lower costs than what I was getting the draw for. In other words, if they figured 30,000 construction, I'd then beat up my guys for 20,000. Right. So now I'm saving 10 grand. Then I take that extra 10 grand and go put it down on 3 more properties. So now I'm using their money to buy the next one. That's how I was able to scale it so quickly. I was teaching this to the Ohio RIA, 900 people there, and nobody had ever heard of this. It's a great way to do it. I'm not saying, again, overly, and this only worked in a hot market. I was putting properties on the market they were selling in a minute. If you remember back then, I don't know if you remember, but they were like they are now. You put the house on the market now, you got multiple offers in one day. So it's pretty easy. When it slows down, it's difficult. You got to be careful. But it certainly made it easier for me to quickly get to that many properties. And it wasn't just myself. It was my brother and my father as well were involved. Like I said, we had over 300 properties.
Okay.
So build your business credit.
Got it. I have a question. If someone has mediocre or bad personal credit, do you need to work on building up your personal credit before you can get business credit?
Absolutely not. It has nothing to do with you personally. You remember, the IRS recognizes an LLC, an S corporation, a C corporation as its own entity. So do lenders. Okay. Now, I'm not telling you shouldn't work on your personal credit, because at some point, if you're going to get cash, real cash, like something you can write a check against, nobody's going to give that to you on business credit only. They're going to look at your personal credit. If you're building your business credit and it takes 10 months to do it, in the same 10 months, you should be working on your personal credit. Okay. And this also isn't a free ride to burn people. I've seen people do this too. Like, I'm a 450 credit score. I want to build my business credit. I'm like, whoa. wait a minute. You have to work hard to be a 450 credit score. Like you got to on purpose not pay people. That's not what this is about. This is for legitimate business owners. This is to help people scale their business, and it is scalable, right? So if you're in, and I don't know, Carrie, because you never told me, but I assume you own more than one business.
Yes.
Yeah, I figured that. I had 5. I had my real estate agent business. I had my flipping business, my buy and hold business, my construction company, and my maintenance company. Right, and I interbuild on purpose. Yes, but I also built business credit for all 5. Now think about how scalable that is. Right, what you do for one, you do for all. Right. So now instead of $10,000 in credit from this company, you could have $50,000 in credit. Same industry, didn't matter.
Right, but different businesses within the same industry.
So it's scalable. And that's why I love what this company does, Credit Suite. We're an education company. We're not doing it for you. We're teaching you how to do it so that you don't need us. Right? That's our goal in life, is to get people to understand how important it is, how to do it, and then to actually execute it. Right? And we just guide people through that process. It's actually really easy. It takes time. It's not an overnight success, but nothing is. Right? And I hear this all the time. Well, isn't there a shortcut? I'm like, if there's a shortcut, then we wouldn't call it a shortcut. That's the way we would do it. Right. Right. I don't believe in shortcuts.
Right. So it takes time. You've got to go through the steps, and you've got to set it up correctly.
Exactly. And then it's not something that ends. Like I get asked this a lot. Sure. Well, how much can I get? Well, unlimited. Right? How big do you plan on growing your business? Right. How much credit do you think Walmart has? Right. I pulled their business credit profile, by the way. It's like 7,000 trade lines reporting. Right. Everybody's got one. It's really up to you. If you're going to scale your business and grow it, when my printing company got to 25 million, obviously I had way more credit than I did in real estate. But again, it's really up to you. There is no rainbow, no part of the end of the rainbow. It just continues to grow as you need it. Use it wisely, scale when you need to, and make a profit. That's it.
And let's say you run into what you ran into back in 2008 and you damage your business credit. How quickly can you build that back up? Is it different than personal credit?
It is. Here's the thing about personal credit. Because you have the Fair Credit Reporting Act, you can dispute, and let's be honest, we know people dispute things that are really theirs, right? But
Sure.
if it's reported wrong, they get it removed. It's, I don't want to call it a scam because there's a legitimate industry out there. But it's certainly, I've repaired my own personal credit, and I always had a hard time disputing something that was mine. Like, I knew that I didn't pay that bill, so how could I dispute it? Anyhow, with business credit, you don't have the Fair Credit Reporting Act. There's nobody to protect you. So if you have a negative on there, the only thing you could do is build around that. And if the negatives are so bad, you're better off just starting another company, right? In real estate, I always had a new LLC for every 5 houses. I didn't want more than 5 houses in each LLC. I highly suggest investors operate. I mean, talk to your accountant, obviously, but the idea of all those assets in one company never made me comfortable.
Right.
God forbid somebody trips and falls, right?
So because you have a few houses in each LLC acts as its own business as far as business credit.
Correct. But you got to be careful because
even though it's in the same industry.
Correct. You just can't use the same address. Because all business credit is reported based on your address. So you can't go to your Uncle Joey's grocery store and claim the back office as your office. You can't do that.
Right.
When I would buy apartment buildings, I would make sure I would designate one of them as an office.
Okay.
Right. So that would be an actual address. I never used my house for anything. I always had an address somewhere. So you don't want to do that because that's kind of like commingling to them. And here's what will happen. If you get credit for company A and they go to report, they're going to see 2 addresses there or 2 companies at the same address, and they're just not going to report anything. So it won't work. You've got to have a separate address. Virtual addresses are great for that. And like I said, when I say virtual address, I'm talking about, people can look this up, Regus, REGUS, or Alliance virtual offices, or I think there's another one, Opus, OPUS. They're the 3 national companies that I know. I know Regus has literally virtual addresses in every state of the country, every city in the country. You're better off with that. I know people don't like to give their home address as their corporate address because, especially if you're a landlord, you don't want tenants to know where you live. I completely understand that. Get a virtual address. Do not use a P.O. box.
I don't know if that we went into detail on what a virtual address is.
Okay. Virtual address is typically a high-rise building. Right? It's an office, a shared office space. There's always a secretary there or somebody answering the phones. They have conference rooms. You can go in and use them. You can either rent the space from them or get a virtual space, which means your name is there, but you don't really have a space in there. Back in the 70s, that industry sued to be recognized as a legitimate office as opposed to a P.O. box, and they won. So you can use them as a Now, the problem is when you go to open your business bank account, they don't want a virtual address. They're going to want your home address. You can't use a P.O. box to open a bank account.
Right.
So just bear that in mind. What I tell people is, look, go into the bank, give them your virtual address as your corporate address, but your mailing address is your home. And it's all got to match. The IRS better have that address. The Secretary of State better have that address. Everywhere needs to be congruent. Because again, they're looking for fraud. So if it doesn't match, they're going, whoa, what is this? We're not sure. I'd rather just not give you the credit.
Okay.
So it's real important. And then you've got to monitor your business credit no different than your personal credit. You have to get a BINS number, business identification number from Experian. Don't worry about it. You'll get one automatically. As soon as somebody reports to Experian, they report your payments, it automatically populates. So banks tend to look at Experian, vendors look at Dun & Bradstreet. So you've got to get a nice mix of both. Here's the problem with that. Only 7% of companies actually report. Only 7%. So 93 out of 100 companies don't report. So you're doing business with people who typically contractors don't report, right? You do business with ABC Contracting Company to rehab your house. They're not going to report your payments.
Right.
So what do? You've got to know who to go to.
Mhm.
That's where we come in. We're the
So
GP.
this is the process. So we've built the business profile. We've got a few trade lines. Now we're talking about building
Correct.
the business profile. How do we build it so that we can increase our business lines?
Correct. So there are what we call tiers of credit. So
Right.
your first tier is your beginning credit, which we discussed, the net 30 accounts. You're going to get them from places like Uline that we mentioned. You're going to get gas cards. You have to know which ones to go to. And
When you say you have to know which ones to go to, why?
Because they all have underwriting criteria,
Mhm.
and the underwriting criteria is going to be based on what your business credit profile looks like, including what's reporting. And some companies require you to have a minimum of 3 trade lines reporting before they'll approve you. But you've got to know that. You've got to understand that. What I see people do all the time is they go, I got 3 trade lines reporting. I'm an 80 paying score. Let me go to Chase. No, you're way too early. Or let me go to Ford and get a vehicle. Let me go to Toyota and get a vehicle. You're way too soon. They're just going to, and remember, they don't deny you. They say, please, we need your social security number.
Mm-hmm.
That's your denial.
That's like the red flag is
yes,
they ask for the social security number.
Now, I will tell you, because Department of Homeland Security, they're worried about terrorists and all that, they will ask for your social for identification purposes only when you have a strong business credit profile. They need to know who's getting their products, which will make sense. I get $50,000 in credit with Home Depot. I can go buy $50,000 worth of water heaters, sell them out the back of a truck, in, downtown Philadelphia, let's say, and then take the cash and fund terrorism. So they need to know who has that credit, like who specifically has it. But the secret there is you got to know to lock your personal credit report so it can't be run. And you say, this is for identification purposes only. You do not put it on the application. Make them ask for it.
Okay.
I'll give you a great example of this. Standing in Sam's Club about a year ago, and I'm at the customer service counter. Anybody who's been in Sam's Club knows what I'm talking about, where you get your ID cards. All right. And you also can apply for credit cards there. Sam's Club has 2 credit cards. They have a MasterCard for in-house, where you can only use it in Sam's Club, and they have one that's what I call traveling MasterCard. You can use it everywhere. And I watched a woman put her application in, and the customer service rep immediately says, we need your social security number, and pointing at the application. She said, no, you don't. And my ears perked up right away. I'm like, oh, this is going to be interesting. So the woman says, no, you don't. She says, no, we do. She said, trust me. Send it in. I know who the underwriting bank is. Send it in just that way. They'll run my business credit. And the customer service rep kind of rolled their eyes, right? But send it in. About 5 minutes later, they get a phone call from the bank. And she's still standing there, and I'm standing right behind her watching this. The bank wants to talk to her. She gets on the phone, and she says the same thing. No, you don't. Run it the way it is. No, you don't. Run it the way it is. And she kept repeating herself. Hangs up. About 3 minutes later, the customer service rep says, you're approved for $15,000. So,
as a business line, not a personal.
Correct. And I was laughing because I went, she's got to be one of our customers. She has to be, because we teach to do exactly that.
Because most people wouldn't know.
Well, most people would immediately give up. Right. Just see, here's why. They don't teach the customer service reps about it. They don't want you to know about it. They don't even teach the bank reps about it. The underwriters know, but not the customer service reps. Because they're their first line of defense. Remember, it's in their best interest to have you personally guarantee it, isn't it?
Right.
Right. So they're not going to teach the people, the front-facing people about it. Only the people in the background know about it. So if you don't know, and nobody likes confrontation, right? Somebody smiling at you nice, please give me your social security. Okay. No, don't do it. But you've got to know when. Now, here's the thing. I can tell you there's no way she gets approved unless she has 15 trade lines reporting.
So this is where we get into the tiers, where you're tier 1, 2, 3. You're moving your way up into the business line credit world.
Correct. As you get past tier 1, you go into tier 2. You're going to need at least 3 to 6 more out of there. Once they begin reporting, then you move into tier 3, and you're going to notice your limits are not creeping up, they're skyrocketing up. Typically, once you hit tier 3, you're over 10,000, closer to 15, sometimes as high as 25, depending on what you've done with the initial tiers. And then you get into tier 4. At that point, when you're finished, you should have between 15 and 20 trade lines reporting. And then we have what we call non-reporting trade accounts. Non-reporting, a good example of that is American Express. They will give you business credit. They just don't report. But at this point, you've already built your profile. It's like being an 800 credit score at this point. You don't care if they're reporting or not. You just care if they're going to give you the credit.
Right.
Right. I wouldn't care if Ford didn't report as long as I got those trucks in the company name and I didn't have the personal guarantee. I don't care if they happen to report. They do. But do you understand my point? Once you hit that thick credit profile, then that's when that tide turns that we talked about way back in the beginning, where people start coming to you and trying to solicit you to use their credit. Right. I mean, there are banks all over this country that give business credit and no one knows about it.
Yeah.
Well, the big companies know about it.
Right.
So yeah, you've got to go through those 4 tiers. And unlike personal credit where everything reports every month, business credit typically takes 45 to 60 days to report. So that's why I tell people 8 months, because 4 tiers, 2 months per tier, you're at 8 months. All right. I say 8 to 12 because, let's be honest, people sometimes are lazy. They get into something, they get excited, they get moving, something reports like, oh, that's great, I'm gonna have to go ahead and apply for some more, and then 2 weeks later they still haven't done it yet. So
in the personal credit world, if I have 10 to 15 open credit cards or open lines of credit, but I'm not using all of them, sometimes that can negatively impact my credit score. In the business world, let's say I have 10 to 15 lines of business credit and I'm not always actively using them. How does that work in the business world?
It doesn't affect your score. Your score is strictly based on, well, I can tell you now, on Dun & Bradstreet, it's basically payment experiences. How you pay your bills is how they report. It's not about utilization, how much you've used it, any of that. Do you pay your bills on time? All right,
so I could have a $10,000 credit, let's say a $10,000 limit on a business card. And let's say I'm only using like a couple $100 a month, but I use it, I pay it off, I use it, I pay it off.
What'll happen is they'll increase your credit limit.
Right.
they're gonna tempt you.
Yeah.
I can tell you after 1 year, typically they double your limits. Typically, if you manage it right, they'll double your limits. Well, I got about $70,000 in business credit cards about 2 years ago. Knowing their system, managed it right, and 1 year to the day, every one of them doubled the limits. Every one of them. So I got like $140,000 in business credit cards. So yeah, now I will tell you, Experian, utilization does affect your business credit score, but not like personal credit. Personal credit's 35%, and Experian it's like 5%. So it almost has no impact because they understand businesses will max out their credit cards on a regular basis. We've all seen that Capital One commercial where that dog food guy got $30,000 in rebates from Capital One. Now think about that, 2%. What did he spend if he got $30,000 in rebates, right? He was maxing that card out every month. If that really affected his business credit, well, actually, it did affect his personal credit. Capital One's not a real business credit card. If it had it been reporting on his business credit, it wouldn't have really affected it at all. Inquiries have no impact whatsoever. Your income really has no impact whatsoever. I could tell you the length and time in business has some impact, only for what you're recommended for. So like people who start a business today, like we talked about, it'll be slower for them to build business credit than it will be for, let's say, you, who's been in business a while. And it's really just a trust factor, right? If I start my business today, I haven't built any real trust yet. You've been in business over 5 years. It's a little bit of trust. Hey, she's been around a while, hasn't closed. There's nothing negative reporting. So I'd be more comfortable giving you credit than I would me. So that does have some impact. But inquiries don't. Whether you use it or not doesn't, except, I'll go back to that trucking example. If you're applying for new credit and you're not using the old credit at all, they're going to be concerned whether you're in business or not.
Right.
That's the only time. So you should at least use it. First of all, that's the whole point of having it. It's not like personal credit. You don't get credit cards just to have them.
Right.
You get them because you need them.
To use them. Yeah.
Right.
Someone's asking, what if you've applied already at somewhere like Home Depot and you used your personal credit before? Can you apply again and not use your personal Social Security number? Can you get a business card after you've already gotten a personal card?
Yes, you can. Absolutely. Remember, it's completely separate entities. Separate entities. They will try to force your hand, Jamie. It's Jamie, right, that asked that?
Yeah.
They will try to force your hand, but unless you have a lot of trade lines reporting, don't do it. You're not ready yet. Okay.
And Home Depot is what tier is that under?
Well, technically they're in two tiers. They have net 30 and then they have revolving. So net 30 is early, tier 1, tier 2.
Okay.
The revolving is going to be tier 4.
Okay.
Okay. So, and it's funny, they used to be tier 3. Remember I told in the beginning, I was telling you it changes.
So it changes.
Things change.
Yeah.
It's constantly changing. Matter of fact, there's a company called Quill. Most people have heard of them. They're like a tiny little Amazon. They sell office supplies, coffee, things like that. Quill. They used to be the company I gave out all the time. They would give you credit right out of the gate. And then this year during COVID, they stopped. They stopped approving people. So I felt bad. I didn't want to send people there because we were getting denied. And they were like, well, this guy's a liar, right? So I'm like, no, I swear I'm not. And then it got worse. Some executive at Quill didn't understand their customer base because people only buy from Quill because they report. They help people build business credit. Well, they stopped reporting completely. They were saving themselves some money. Well, guess what? Their sales plummeted.
Right.
Because why would I buy from you when I can go to Amazon and get it cheaper?
Right.
It's still online. It's still the same thing. So obviously they quickly started reporting again, but they're not in tier 1 anymore. So I wouldn't refer people to them yet.
Okay.
So you've got it. The whole point of this is you've got to understand who to go to next. It's like a GPS. If I'm driving from Tampa to Atlanta, I'm not going to get in my car and not know where I'm going, right? I've got to know when I should be making a left, when I should be making a right.
Yeah. And you got to know where the pit stops are. Like where am I going to stop?
Right. You've got to know. That's really what we're experts at. That's exactly how we stay in business. We know exactly who you should go to, what their underwriting criteria is. As a matter of fact, you can physically see it before you apply, so you know you're getting approved.
Right.
But you've got to know when the only people I know that fail at this do exactly what Jamie's asking. They start off with tier 1 and they immediately want to go to American Express.
Yeah.
And they're not even close. It's kind of like the way I describe it when I'm talking to people on the phone is it's like you're 18 and you just got a jewelry credit card. Now you want to go apply for $1 million mortgage. No. No, you got a jewelry credit card.
You've got to build your way up.
Exactly. Only it's a lot faster in business credit. It's impossible to build a strong personal credit profile in 8 months. It's easy for business credit. You just got to know who to go to.
Okay. You provided a website, and I'm going to pop it up here on the live stream. But if you're listening to this on the podcast, it will also be in the show notes. But it's creditsuite.com/pod-EIN. Yep.
That'll give them a business credit building guide. Now, it's not going to be detailed. It's going to be overview. If you really need detail, you can reach out to us at info@creditsuite.com. Keep in mind, info@creditsuite.com, right? We talked about the email. You can reach out to me directly at Stephen, STEPHEN, @creditsuite.com. We give free consultations about this. We'll look at your business credit profile. We'll show you what's wrong. We'll show you how to correct it. We love doing this. You don't have to spend money with us. We'll give you a taste of the brownie anyway.
All right. So guys, I'm trying to pop it up here. So it's creditsuite.com /
you want me to put
POD-EIN.
You want me to put it in
I got it.
There you go. Okay, cool.
I was trying to use my copy and paste and it wasn't working out for me. So there you go, guys. So creditsuite.com /pod-EIN. And I know we went over a lot of information. We went over a lot of processes and steps. So this is all going to be in the show notes as well. So you can reference that while you're listening to the show. If you want to go back to the show notes, you can do that. All right. Steve, any other last words before we leave here? I know we gave out a lot of advice and a lot of steps and a lot of processes, and we talked a lot about differences between personal credit and business credit. Anything else you want to add before we go?
I would say don't try to do this on your own. You can. Don't get me wrong. Business credit wasn't invented by Credit Suite, right? It's been around forever and ever and ever. I told the Walmart story. But instead of taking 5 years to do something, if you really want to learn how to do it, reach out to us. We'll show you the step-by-step process. It's not that difficult. But if you do it on your own, people will bang their heads against the wall. And they'll keep getting denied and keep getting denied, not understand why. And it's usually something goofy. something easy. So if you're unsure, just reach out to them. Remember, if you don't mind, I'll give you the 877 number. It's 877-600-2487. It's funny. I have to look that up every time because I never call it.
Go ahead and say that one more time. I know you're. You're from the north, so you talk faster than us Southerners down here in Florida.
Right, let me take it from 78 down to 45. 877-600-2487.
All right, there you go. That was definitely Southern speed. I like it.
It's funny. First time I did a webinar ever, I didn't even know what a webinar was. My CEO had asked me to do it, and I was like, "Sure, I'll do it. I don't know what it is, but I'll do it." And anyway, he gave me a slide deck. I went on, and I got all done. It was about 30 minutes. And I called him. I said, "How did it go?" I said, "It went great. Blah blah blah." He goes, "My only question is, why are you done? That was an hour and a half webinar. How are you done in 30 minutes?" I'm like, "Oh." Because I talk really fast.
When I moved down to Florida from Rhode Island, I'm originally from New England. So when I moved down to Florida to go to college, my college roommate, who ended up being my best friend and bridesmaid in my wedding, she was from Stark, Florida, which is very Southern. And when we first met each other, it was like talking to a foreigner, both of us. We talked super slow, and I would talk really fast. She would say things like, "I'm fixing to go to the Jiffy store." And I'd be like, "Oh, that's wicked cool." And she'd be like, "What?" Like, we weren't on the same plane for a little while. And I remember, so we would walk around campus. We lived on campus the first year, so we walked to all of our classes. And I had a couple friends that were from Florida. One was from Destin, Florida. She was from Stark, and we would walk to classes together. And I would be like, "You guys, I can't walk this slow. Like, this is driving me nuts. I'm just going to meet you there because I don't walk this slow." And I would literally take off and I would meet them, save them a seat, because they were just like, it was just this Southern speed.
It's funny because like when I was doing my live events and speaking, I would have to put, back in the old days, the iPod, I had a metronome in it, and I would put the earbuds in and click, 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 click to slow my mind down, because I could have done this hour and a half podcast in like 10 minutes. Right. Nobody would understand a word I said. It's crazy. I can't break it. I've been down here for 10 years and I still catch myself. I got to breathe. You
got to take a breath. Yeah.
And same with walking. My wife and I will be in the store walking together, and I'm always 20 steps ahead of her. It's like, slow down. I don't know where we get. I think it's because everything moves so fast. We had to move fast.
And it's cultural. I mean, I just grew I grew up speaking fast, talking fast, moving fast. It's just it's a faster paced speed where I grew up. And then I come down here and it's like, whoa. You go through the drive-through and it's like, why are they taking so long? And no one else is saying anything. They're like, it's like, this must be normal because I'm the only one that's getting frustrated about the speed of this process.
I have to tell you, now, you know who Publix is. Not everybody's listening may know who Publix is, but they're the biggest.
So Publix, you guys, if you're not from Florida, is the main shopping center. If you're up in New England, I know we have some New Englanders who listen. It's like the Stop and Shop or the Shaw's.
Or the Acme if you're from Philadelphia or whatever. Mm-hmm. Hey, so we move here. We're standing in line at the Publix. We just our first time at a store here, and I'm getting really frustrated because everybody wants to talk to the register person for 10 minutes. I want to, and everybody wanted to be this close to me. And we just in the Northeast are like, no, my space is my space.
Right. Well, it's Southern. You're friendly to everyone. You start conversations with everyone. You're all close and huggy, and everyone's all close together.
I'm over it now, but I'm going to tell you, the first year I would sit in the line. I keep jumping from line to line to line. I'm like, which one's moving faster? And none of them did. So I was the reason they invented the self-checkout. Just they're skinny. I'm out.
Yeah, they're like, oh, this guy must be from the north.
Yeah. I think I'm better now, but who knows? Anyway.
All right. Well, enough ragging on Southerners, because I am one now. I've definitely slowed down now that I'm down here. And I really do appreciate the culture down here now that when I go up north, I appreciate the things now down here.
Me too.
that I've just grown used to and accustomed to, like the Southern hospitality.
Right. That's exactly. Yeah. I don't look
Like,
at
what the
everybody.
hell is wrong with everyone up north? They're all so rude.
Yeah, it's funny. It's funny. I don't look at people cross-eyed like I used to, because now I'm kind of relaxed too, and I get it. But I used to look at everybody. Everybody wanted to talk to me like, "What do you want?"
Yeah, it's like they have a hidden agenda, and they're like, "No, we just really want to get to know you."
My bad.
Sir, I'm sorry, ma'am.
Yep. Oh, that's so funny. Carrie,
All right. Well,
I had
cool,
so much
Steve.
fun today.
Yeah, this was awesome. Again, you guys, this is all going to be in the show notes. And thank you again, Steve, for coming on. This was all good information.
My pleasure. I love being here.
All right, you guys, that's going to be it for today. So we will see you on the next episode. And remember, you are only one deal